The Better Human Show is about building better humans through first principles thinking and exposing the status quo. Better human means to embrace the journey of betterment and self-actualization and mastery and leave the world a better place than how you found it for the next generation. And you do that through constant building of yourself. And then that manifests like a ripple around you to other people, to community, to the work you put out, etc. And you will literally make the world a better place as you make yourself better. So speaking of that, the importance of agency and taking ownership and becoming better, today's topic is the idea of trust. So you hear people say all the time, I don't trust this person. I don't trust that politician. I don't trust this when they do that or they did that or whatever. It's a flawed idea. The word itself is being misused because let's think about this a second. If you trust somebody, does that mean everything they say, you take at face value? Everything they say is right? What's even worse is it's one thing to trust someone you know who you think is really smart. But I mean, even then there's issues with that because nobody is infallible. Everybody makes mistakes. I mean, some of the smartest people in the world have made the dumbest mistakes. Many of them have lost lots of money. They thought they were smart. They thought they could do this. Some of the, proclaimed geniuses like long-term capital management, for example, they were making risk-free returns and then that blew up. Like there's so many examples throughout history of people that were heralded as geniuses and this and that and amazing. And then they stumble or they make a major miscalculation or whatever. You cannot trust anybody but yourself. That seems nihilistic, maybe even anti-human, but let me explain what I mean by that. Again, the word being used as I trust this person or I trust that person. And even if you don't blatantly say that, you might think that because you might like this politician or you might like that celebrity or you might like your best friend. And so therefore, most of the things that they say, you're going to tend to agree with. And if they say too many things you don't agree with, well, then you're going to have some major cognitive dissonance and you might end up not liking that person anymore and therefore not trusting that person anymore. But it's still all flawed no matter how you look at it. If you trust somebody, it implies that you're giving up your own critical thinking. You're giving up your agency and the responsibility of doing the necessary research and work yourself. And you're taking what someone else says at face value. Now think about how the entire mainstream narrative, the government and everything, I've never met like a senator, I don't think, maybe an ex-senator. I've never met a politician. I've had no say in any of it whatsoever. I was born into this and now here I am 36 years old and so much of my life and taxes and freedoms and this and that, for better and worse, dictate how I live my daily life. I was born into a system that I have no control over, no say in whatsoever, and that is just the way it is. And all the ideas that have been fed to me by anything and everything, but especially the people in power, corporations, we have big tech censorship, things like that are happening at a rampant rate now. Like it's taken to a completely new degree that we could have never imagined, in the newspaper era, right? Or the get on a podium and do a public speech era. Most people just trust the person that sounds the most eloquent or that says the things that they agree with the most. They trust that person. What that person says tends to be what they think they believe and what they maybe even echo to others. It's kind of crazy, actually. If you think about how so much of government is just this collective blind trust of other people that go on TV with their handlers, with their speechwriters, and say certain things, answer certain questions, avoid certain questions, and then do all the things that actually run government, all the crony capitalism and politics and the lobbying and the nonsense. They do that behind closed doors. It's insane. So you have to stop thinking of trusting anybody but yourself, because what you want to do is you want to take information into your eyes and ears, assimilate it through your own critical thinking framework, figure out where the gaps are, go to the source material. Don't just read an article and say, oh, now I know about this subject. Go to the source material, go to multiple bits of source material, like some that are this, that, or that, or whatever, because they all have a bias. And then come to your own conclusions after actually thinking about it. Like, what makes sense here? Like, what are we actually talking about here? What are the first principles? Is this right? Not, is this a better or worse option, but is this actually right? Is this a fundamental truism? Or is this based on what the politicians were arguing about in a debate, so therefore that's what they're focusing me on, and that's what I'm thinking about, when really I should be thinking about, should these politicians be talking about this thing at all? Should they even be considering giving each other more power over the other or more power over me or whatever? That's what politics has become. It's become the system that just ingrains, this Frankenstein that is alive and creeps along and keeps growing. And nobody talks about removing power from government. Every election cycle is about who's going to get more power. Like, what party's going to get the power. So here's a tweet I wrote today that prompted this idea. So trusting governments, experts, celebrities, anyone else means you are letting someone else research, analyze, think, and otherwise dictate major life decisions for you. America is 50% plus obese. 1.75 million Americans die a year from lifestyle-related diseases. Most people are depressed, are not happy, or hate their jobs, maybe hate their lives. They are on antidepressants. They escape into food and alcohol and porn and other addictions. And you want to follow that group of people that outsources their thinking and makes decisions for their health, for how they vote, for how they spend their money, for everything, to people talking on TV that they've never met and of which they're not even included in the freaking conversation. It's the corrupt leading the blind. It's crazy. Okay, so yeah, maybe you agree with some of that. Maybe some of that rubs you the wrong way. Whatever it is, it's still the reality of what's going on now, which is why I spend so much time on first principles. Let's look at what's happening. Let's look at the incentives. Let's look at who benefits, who doesn't, etc. Let's look at big pharma. Let's look at government. Let's look at crony capitalism, blah, 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 right? Let's look at all these different things. And then let's just take a step back and let's ignore all the things we want to believe. Let's ignore all those ideas. And let's just think about what makes sense, what doesn't. Not what sounds good, not what we want to believe. Very few people can do this. Unfortunately, that is what it is. And if you are a first principles thinker and you haven't dived into Bitcoin yet, you need to do that because it's going to change your life. Bitcoin attracts first principles thinkers that can be open-minded and that can really, really kill their sacred cows and focus on truth and mathematics and reality. Not all of them are perfect by any means. I'm not saying I am or anything, but it tends to converge on these people. And these people converge to this idea because it's the future. So really what it is. So the actionable thing here though is to catch yourself listening to someone that you don't know, me, podcaster, politician, whatever, and then you like them because they've said other things or you follow them or whatever, and then taking everything they say at face value, not really researching it yourself, not doing the hard work to analyze it, and then parroting that to someone else. That's what's really dangerous here. But at least for your own self, just make sure you don't become too dogmatic and you don't become too accepting of other ideas because you shouldn't trust anybody but your own critical thought. It's kind of like if I said, okay, I'm going to walk you to the edge of a cliff, like kind of like a trust fall, but one that's dangerous. Like we're going to stand over this pool of piranhas or alligators or whatever, and you're going to fall back, but I'm going to catch you. So turn around, close your eyes, and you don't have any benefit here. Let's just do it. Like you're here. I want to prove to you that you can trust me. Is the risk to reward ratio worth it to trust me? I mean, what if I want to hold you up? And I believe I will with every fiber of my being. But again, I'm a fallible human. And maybe I slip or I don't catch you and you fall through to your death and the piranhas eat you up or the alligators or whatever or snakes or, a massive pile of black widows that will, scorpions, whatever your scary little creature is in this pit, and you're going to do a trust fall to me and I'm going to catch you because I just want to prove to you that you can trust me. Why would you ever do that? And maybe that's not the perfect metaphor, but it's kind of similar. It's like there's no benefit whatsoever to trusting people you don't know and that you've had no say in, you haven't been able to ask questions, like nothing. If you blindly trust information that's fed to you by mainstream media, government, people, anybody, and you don't think for yourself, it's kind of like just saying, okay, I'll fall because, you said so. You said you'd catch me, so I'll just fall. All you have is potential risk, right? Risk of bad decisions, risk of not having the right information, risk of developing the wrong worldviews that make you do this, do that, or whatever. And there's no upside. It just doesn't exist because like politicians, me for not catching you, government, none of these people have any skin in the game. They can say whatever they want to you and you have no recourse to them. So if they're wrong, there's no feedback loop to correct them to be right the next time. That's basically why government and intellectuals and media, whatever, why it's so bad and so corrupt, because even the media, like they can publish a story that's literally wrong and then publish a small retraction later on that nobody pays attention to. Everybody's already forgotten, moved on. So there's no actual feedback loop there. But you want to know what they did in Rome? So an engineer that designed an arch, for example, or a bridge, he was the first to have to stand under it when that final brick was laid or that final stone. He was supposed to stand under it as somebody walked across it, or as the final arch came under to fruition, was finished, he was supposed to stand under it. He has skin in the game. If his arch or his bridge is not very robust, very well planned and built and considered, he'll die. The bridge is going to collapse on him, kill him. Now think about how much skin in the game you have to making the best dam, bridge, or arch that you could possibly make, right? Which is why a lot of these things, aqueducts, things like that, have survived a long freaking time. Now imagine for politicians, though. Most of them just get in office for a bit, make some money, get out, then get some high-paying job at some corporation, and there's little to no feedback loop there. Some people pay attention to what senators do or don't do or whatever. Most don't. If you take something like the presidency, it's like such a short election cycle, and most presidents don't get 2 terms. Some do, but it's like, who cares? They got their 4 years in office, and then they get out, they can have a massive book deal and speaking engagements. They're set for life. Whether they actually get elected again means nothing. There's no feedback loop. And if their really bad policies result in death or literally sending people into an unjust war, like, where are these politicians held accountable? Are they thrown in jail? Are they put on trial? Do they pay for anything? And I'm kind of getting into a broader idea here with the problems of government and just trusting anybody that says anything that doesn't have to reap the consequences, that if you follow their advice and you die or something bad happens to you or you lose all your money, whatever, you have no recourse to these people. They have absolutely no skin in the game, no risk whatsoever. So what it does is it creates no feedback mechanisms to make sure that their ideas are actually tested, right? Are as good as they can be, are as robust as they can be. The way that the Roman engineer would have to make his bridge or arch the best it could be. Because if he doesn't make it the best it could be, he's dead. I hope I got you thinking. That's it for today's show. Subscribe. We got a daily show coming out. I'm also on YouTube. You can subscribe there. And all the podcast apps, of course. Make sure you get on the Better Human newsletter over at Colin Coach. And let's thank one of our sponsors today. My favorite, Wild Foods Co. Better food supplements for better humans. Use code WILDCEO for 15% off your entire order. It used to be 12%. I upped it up. And you can get all your nutritional needs, better foods, better supplements for better humans. Wildfoods.co, 15% off. I'll see you in the next one.